Welcome to AI for Beginners Demystified, the podcast that makes artificial intelligence simple, practical, and profitable for small business owners. Each week, we turn complex AI concepts into real-world strategies you can use to grow your business. Hosted by the team at Internet Marketing Services. This is AI for Beginners Demystified, where the future of business starts today. Let's get started.
Welcome to AI for Beginners Demystified, the podcast that makes artificial intelligence simple, practical, and exciting. I'm Rick Samara.
And I'm Paul Stober. If you are joining us for this podcast today, you're likely the kind of person who uses generative AI on a regular basis.
Yeah, you already know the basics.
Right. You see the potential and you're constantly absorbing new information about where this technology is headed. But navigating the sheer volume of daily updates and tools and best practices is honestly, it's overwhelming.
It's incredibly overwhelming.
Yeah. So our mission today is to just cut through that noise. We are looking at a structured, repeatable framework to move you from being what we'll call an AI beginner.
Someone who just casually experiments?
Exactly. An AI beginner to an AI practitioner. Someone who actually leverages the technology to scale their output without burning out.
And we're focusing on a methodology called multimodal content creation today.
Which is such a massive topic. But the transition from beginner to practitioner is, it's the critical chasm most people are trying to cross right now.
It really is. It is the literal difference between treating these tools as fun novelties versus integrating them as core components of a professional workflow.
So, to map out that transition, we are synthesizing a really robust stack of sources today. We're looking at a comprehensive guide specifically detailing the mechanics of multimodal content creation, which actually draws on the author's own text AI for Beginners Demystified.
And we are also anchoring these tactical steps in the broader macroeconomic reality.
Because we have to look at the big picture.
Right. We are pulling from three major reports for this. The McKinsey analysis on the economic potential of generative AI, the Stanford University AI Index report, and the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report.
It's a lot of data, but blending that micro-level tactical advice with the macro-level economic data, it provides a complete picture.
We aren't just looking at how to prompt an AI, we're looking at why those specific prompts are becoming economically essential.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should probably establish how our sources are actually defining multimodal content creation in this context.
Yeah, we need a working definition.
Because we all know the reality of fragmented attention today.
Oh, absolutely. Attention is everywhere and nowhere.
Right? Some of your audience wants to read a podcast article. Others want to watch a short form video on their phone.
And someone else is listening to audio while driving across Texas or commuting in New York.
Exactly. We know we need to be everywhere in every format. But the traditional bottleneck has always been the execution. Creating for all those modalities used to require a 12-person marketing team.
What's fascinating here is how the source material reframes a solution to that exact bottleneck. The primary difference between an AI beginner and an AI practitioner is not raw intelligence.
No, it's not about being a tech genius.
It's not about coding ability at all. The distinguishing factor is structure. Structure, yes. Beginners approach AI with isolated, single-use requests. They ask for a recipe or a quick summary, and then they just close the application.
They treat it like a search engine.
Exactly. Practitioners, conversely, they utilize repeatable workflows to solve the exact fragmentation issue you just mentioned.
They build a system.
They take one core high-value idea and build a system around it to systematically adapt it across mediums.
Which, honestly, it levels the playing field significantly. A solo consultant in California or a small business in Ohio can now architect a multi-channel presence that rivals a large corporation.
They really can. The barrier to entry for high volume, high quality content has plummeted.
But before we get into the three-step workflow our guide outlines to actually do this, I really want to dig into those macro reports.
The economic context is crucial here.
It really is, because the Stanford University AI Index report, for instance, highlights a concept that feels directly tied to this need for structure. It discusses the rapid acceleration of AI capabilities totally outpacing standard corporate adoption.
The Stanford data is incredibly revealing on that front. It points to a growing capability overhang.
Capability overhang, that's a great term.
It is. Essentially, the models possess far more utility than the average user or business is currently extracting from.
So the tech is way ahead of the user.
Way ahead. The technology is capable of complex multi-step reasoning and formatting, yet the majority of users are still treating it like a slightly more conversational Google.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. This overhang exists because traditional organizational workflows just haven't been redesigned to accommodate non-human cognitive labor.
And that directly connects to the McKinsey report's findings on productivity.
The McKinsey numbers are staggering.
Trillions of dollars. The McKinsey analysis models out trillions of dollars in potential economic value driven by generative AI, and they pinpoint marketing, content creation, and customer operations as the primary beneficiaries.
They aren't predicting that AI will just make writing an email 10% faster.
No, it's way bigger than that.
They're projecting a fundamental restructuring of how knowledge work is deployed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Quick question for med spa owners. How many calls did you miss this week? Because every unanswered call could be a $500 to $3,000 client booking somewhere else. That's why med spas are turning to Voice AI Plus, an AI-powered receptionist and follow-up system that answers every call 24/7, books appointments, and follows up automatically. No voicemail, no missed opportunities, no extra staff. And it doesn't stop there. Voice AI Plus also includes your CRM, booking calendar, email automation, and review management, all in one system. Try it free for 30 days and see the calls, the bookings, and the ROI for yourself. Visit the link in the description to learn more today.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report clarifies exactly what that restructuring looks like for the individual.
Yes, the WF data is fascinating on the skills shift.
The WEF data shows a massive shift in high-value job skills. Execution-based skills are depreciating in value.
By execution-based, you mean the mechanical stuff?
Right. The mechanical act of formatting a document, resizing an image, or translating a white paper into a slide deck, those skills are losing their premium. Meanwhile, analytical thinking, creative strategy, and systems design are commanding a massive premium.
Because the AI is absorbing the execution layer.
Precisely. The AI is doing the mechanical work.
So the WF report suggests that the human's role is shifting.
It's shifting from being the creator of the final asset to the director, the cognitive process.
Director of the cognitive process? I love that phrasing.
Multimodal content creation is the perfect microcosm of this shift. The human provides the strategic core idea, and the AI handles the mechanical translation of that idea into a blog, a script, and a social post.
It just removes that massive mountain of friction that used to exist between conceptualizing a campaign and actually holding the finished assets in your hand.
Friction is the perfect word. The friction is gone.
Which brings us to the practical application. How do we actually operationalize this? Here's where it gets really interesting. Our primary guide lays out a very specific 3-step workflow designed to build your muscle as a practitioner.
This is where we bridge the gap from theory to daily practice.
Step one is establishing the foundational text, typically an article under 800 words. But the author emphasizes that the quality of the output relies entirely on modular prompt design. We aren't just telling the LLM to write a blog post.
Asking an LLM to simply write a post is a beginner's tactic.
Right, you get that terrible generic output.
It leads directly to generic, uninspired output. The vanilla AI tone that everyone hates. The guide recommends a much more constrained approach.
The specific methodology they suggest involves what we can essentially call variable assignment within your prompt template.
You're treating the prompt like software code.
Exactly. You define the task, but you also input a highly specific 3-word focus keyword. You explicitly define the target audience.
For example, professionals transitioning into management roles.
Yes, and you enforce a rigid tonal constraint, like you tell it to be professional but approachable or lightly humorous.
The technical mechanics of why this works are rooted in how large language models predict tokens.
Can you break that token prediction down a bit?
Sure, when you provide a highly constrained 3-word keyword, you are effectively narrowing the probability distribution of the model's attention mechanism.
So you're forcing it to look only at what matters?
You are forcing the model to heavily weight those specific semantic concepts throughout the generation process. It can't wander off topic.
Which is also why the 800-word limit is there.
Exactly. Keeping the initial output under 800 words is the strategic choice to prevent the model from hallucinating or diluting your core thesis.
Because they tend to ramble.
LLMs often lose the thread of a highly specific argument if allowed to generate long, unbounded text without iterative steering.
So the word count acts as a guardrail?
A very necessary guardrail.
Once you have that dense, highly focused foundational text, the guide moves us to step 2, repurposing the core message.
This is the actual multimodal pivot.
Right? The instructions dictate that you stay within the exact same chat interface, the same context window, and you begin issuing derivative commands.
Turn this into 5 LinkedIn posts.
Extract 3 core talking points.
Graph a 2-minute video script.
Maintaining the context window is the technical linchpin of step 2, isn't it?
It is absolutely critical. The LLM retains the memory, the foundational text, the tone, and the constraints you establish in step 1.
So it already knows the vibe.
It uses that established state as the source material for the translation. You are extending the life of your original intellectual property rather than asking the machine to generate net new concepts for a video script.
But the immediate skepticism I have, and I imagine many listening have as well, is the quality of those derivative assets.
The quality is always the concern.
We have all seen those painfully robotic LinkedIn posts or overly dramatic video scripts generated by AI. If we just say, turn this into 5 social posts, aren't we risking that cringy corporate speak?
That is a very valid concern, and it points back to the need for continuous strategic prompting.
You can't just take the first draft.
The practitioner does not accept the first output as final. If the LinkedIn posts sound robotic, the practitioner refines the system prompt.
Give me an example of that refinement.
You might add a constraint like remove all introductory filler phrases, avoid hyperbole, and write in a direct conversational tone, appropriate for peer-to-peer industry discussion.
That is so much better than just saying, make it sound better.
The workflow is a framework, but human curation is still required to tune the instrument.
And that curation leads directly into step 3, generating supporting visuals.
The text and scripts are done. Now the idea needs visual representation.
The guide points out the utility of multimodal models like ChatGPT's vision and image generation capabilities to create these assets concurrently.
All in the same chat?
Yeah, you can prompt the model to design a simple infographic layout based on the data points it just extracted, or generate a clean visual metaphor for the video script. The author even highlights a promotional flyer entirely conceptualized and rendered through the AI.
That completes the campaign architecture.
It's a whole campaign from one idea.
Within a single focus session, the practitioner has transformed a singular idea into a text article, an audio or video script, social distribution copy, and visual assets.
The execution friction is nearly zero at that point.
It is. However, the removing of that friction introduces a new hazard which the source material addresses head on.
The danger of volume over value.
This Ishley.
When you can generate 50 pieces of content in an hour, the temptation is to publish all 50, just flood the zone.
Which is exactly the issue. AI can generate a massive amount of content incredibly quickly, but that emphatically does not mean that everything it generates deserves to be published.
Right, more is not always better.
This is where the practitioner's mindset separates from the beginner's again. AI is an accelerator of production. It is not a replacement for human judgment and editorial standards.
So the guide provides a specific editorial safety net for this. It suggests running every generated asset through 3 distinct filtering questions before it ever sees the public.
These are crucial.
First, does this actually align with my values and brand identity? Second, is the information factually accurate and logically sound? And third, is this genuinely useful to my target audience?
Those 3 questions form the human-in-the-loop strategy that the WF report alluded to earlier.
It brings the human back to the center of the process.
The author of the guide summarizes this dynamic perfectly. AI executes, you decide.
You retain the role of editor-in-chief.
The AI operates as your production department. If a generated graphic doesn't align with the brand, or if a generated script misses the nuance of the topic, it is the practitioner's responsibility to kill the asset or iterate on it.
Navigating that editorial responsibility takes hands-on experience, though. You can't just read the guide and instantly master the workflow.
No, you have to build the intuition.
And the source material includes a highly relevant anecdote from the author regarding this exact learning curve.
This is a great story.
The author, who literally wrote the book AI for Beginners Demystified, decided to invest heavily in formal education. They went out and completed 6 different professional certification courses on artificial intelligence.
Committing to 6 distinct certifications indicates a serious desire to understand the underlying architecture and theoretical applications of the technology.
It really does, but the realization the author came to was pretty sobering.
They realized the courses were aging too fast.
Exactly. With the technology advancing at its current velocity, the curriculums of those formal certifications were becoming outdated almost as quickly as they were completed.
The interfaces changed.
The context windows expanded overnight. The multimodal capability shifted. The formal theory just couldn't keep pace with the practical reality.
Which forces a total reevaluation of how we acquire skills in this space.
It does.
Traditional linear education really struggles with exponential technological growth.
The conclusion the author reached was that the only viable way to stay current isn't through passive study, but through aggressive, consistent practice.
You have to get your hands dirty.
You have to be in the models every day, testing prompts, building workflows, and observing how the outputs change as the underlying models update.
It reinforces the central premise of our discussion today. The title of practitioner implies practice.
Practice, exactly.
You don't achieve it by memorizing a list of prompts from an article. You achieve it by applying those workflows to your actual daily tasks and troubleshooting the friction points as they arise.
So, what does this all mean? For you, our listener, the mandate is incredibly clear. You do not need to be overwhelmed by the thousands of new AI tools launching every week.
You can ignore the noise.
You do not need to master everything at once. You simply need to take one idea, establish your constraints, and use this 3-step workflow to translate that idea across text, audio, and visual formats.
But staying consistent with that deliberate practice, you build the adaptability required to navigate whatever changes come to the technology next.
It builds a resilient skill set.
Synthesizing the macro data from Stanford and McKinsey with the practical workflows we have discussed, we are definitively entering an era where multi-format engagement is a baseline expectation.
It's not optional anymore.
Audiences demand information in the modality that suits their immediate context. Single format strategies will increasingly fail to capture market share.
So, mastering this multimodal approach today equips you to communicate complex ideas effectively in a highly fragmented ecosystem.
It gives you the leverage to ensure your best ideas actually reach the people who need them, regardless of how they prefer to consume their information.
It really is a superpower for an individual creator or a small team.
It is. However, looking at this capability, the ability of a machine to flawlessly translate our thoughts across every medium imaginable, this raises an important question.
Oh, I love a good curveball at the end.
One that moves beyond the economics of productivity and touches on the philosophy of human expression.
I'm always intrigued by the philosophical implications of this tech. Where are you taking this?
Consider the friction we discussed earlier. The struggle of taking a dense 800-word article and agonizing over how to adapt it into a compelling 2-minute video script.
Right, the late nights staring at a blank page.
Historically, that struggle, that friction, is where the happy accidents of creation occur.
Oh, that's true. Happy accidents.
In fighting the constraints of a new medium, a human creator might invent a completely new visual metaphor or stumble upon a piece of humor that wasn't in the original text purely out of desperation to make the format work.
The struggle forces innovation.
Exactly. But if AI makes that translation completely frictionless, if the transition from text to video to audio is perfectly smooth and mathematically optimized, what happens to those messy, unpredictable quirks of human communication?
Do we lose the unique texture?
Do we lose the unique texture that comes from a creator wrestling with a medium they haven't quite mastered? Or conversely, does removing the grueling mechanical labor of execution free our cognitive load to invent entirely new formats of art and communication that we haven't even conceived of yet?
Wow, that is a fascinating tension to consider.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword of frictionless creation.
Do we lose the magic born from the struggle, or do we finally have the bandwidth to dream on a much larger scale? That is a profound concept to mull over as you build your own workflows.
Okay, let's wrap this up. If you're listening to this show, you're probably already using generative AI. You know the basics. You see the potential. But let's be honest, the sheer volume of updates, tools, and new best practices is overwhelming.
Exactly. So today wasn't about another shiny tool, it was about structure. Specifically, how to move from being an AI beginner, someone who experiments, to becoming an AI practitioner who actually scales output without burning out.
And we centered that transition around one powerful methodology: multimodal content creation.
Which really just means this: taking one core idea and systematically translating it across text, audio, video, and visuals instead of creating everything from scratch.
But here's the key distinction we made. Beginners use AI transactionally. They ask for a blog post or a summary, and then they close the tab.
Practitioners build repeatable workflows.
Right? And we laid out a simple 3-step structure. Step 1, create a focused foundational text under 800 words using constrained prompts. Specific audience, specific tone. Specific 3-word focus keyword. Structure creates quality.
Step 2, repurpose inside the same chat. Don't start over. Turn the article into LinkedIn posts, extract talking points, draft a 2-minute video script. The context window becomes your leverage.
And step 3, Generate supporting visuals, infographics, images, simple promotional graphics, all from the same core idea. One idea, multiple formats, single session.
But we also warned about the danger here, volume over value. Just because AI can generate 50 assets in an hour doesn't mean you should publish 50 assets.
That's where the practitioner mindset returns. AI executes. You decide. Before anything goes live, you run it through 3 filters. Does this align with my brand and values? Is it factually accurate and logically sound? Is it genuinely useful to my audience? That's the human in the loop safeguard.
And we grounded all of this in the bigger picture. The Stanford AI Index shows capability is accelerating faster than adoption. McKinsey projects trillions in economic impact. The World Economic Forum highlights that execution skills are declining in value while systems thinking is rising.
Which means your job is shifting. You're no longer just the creator, you're the director of the cognitive process.
So let's land this with the big takeaways. First, the difference between beginner and practitioner isn't intelligence, it's structure.
Second, one well-structured idea can power an entire multi-channel campaign if you build the workflow correctly.
Third, AI accelerates production, but human judgment determines quality. AI executes. You decide.
Here's your challenge for the week. Take one idea, just one. It could be a lesson from a client call, a business insight, or a concept you've been thinking about.
Run it through the 3-step multimodal workflow, write an 800 word-constrained article, repurpose it into at least 3 derivative formats, generate 1 supporting visual.
Then apply the 3 editorial filters before publishing anything. Do this once deliberately, and you'll feel the shift from experimenting to practicing.
Because the goal isn't to chase every new AI tool. It's to build a repeatable system that compounds.
Stay structured, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to AI for Beginners Demystified, brought to you by Internet Marketing Services, helping small businesses harness the power of AI to work smarter and grow faster. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Be sure to check out the description below for valuable links and resources, including free tools, learning guides, and ways to start applying AI in your business today. And visit einternetmarketingservices.com to explore even more AI tools, tips, and resources. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep demystifying AI.